Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. John Kelly Profiler here, and welcome. Welcome to part 36 of our very sad series, Who Killed Libby German and Abby Williams? And I must say that everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, even when we're talking about James Chadwell, who has been arrested for violently and sexually abusing a girl in Lafayette, Indiana, and the cops are looking into him on Libby and Abby's case. Something else I want to bring out to you is my book. A lot of people keep asking, John, how did you become a profiler? How did you, recover from addictive illness, go into the field of psychotherapy, and then move on from a psychotherapist into the profiling field? So it's all here in my book, Discovering Lazarus, and you can buy it wherever fine books are sold. Thank you so much for those of you that have purchased the book too. I mean, it's doing very well. And again, it's my honor to get it out to you guys. And you've been asking about it for years. And, John, how did you end up where you're at? Well, this is the story. All right. With that being said, in looking at Mr. Chadwell today, something else I'm interested in is, the tattoos. I mean, that's something everybody's been talking about. Everybody's looking at the tattoos. What do they mean? What do they mean? What are these tattoos? Well, we were lucky enough a week or two ago to be contacted by Dustin Ranck, who is a master tattoo artist who's had his own business for many, many years. And Dustin and I have talked a little bit. We've emailed back and forth. And I got to tell you, I like what Dustin has to say. So I think it would be very important for everybody out there that's looking at these tattoos and second guessing these tattoos and trying to get an understanding of these tattoos, they hear it right from the master himself. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Dustin Ranck, master tattoo artist. Dustin, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
My pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah. So if you'd like to talk a little bit about what does this guy mean to you? When you look at him, Dustin, how do you process this guy? You've seen so many different people, so many different personalities. And I just want to kind of upfront say, we know people talk about intimate things with their barber. We know people talk about intimate things with their hairdresser. There's nobody that's going to spend the time with their barber or with their hairdresser that they spend with their tattoo artist. So
Right.
Why not them talking about their most intimate thoughts with their tattoo artist?
Right. It's really an inevitability. I mean, whether it's myself or a client, like we had talked previously, it's kind of knock the boredom over a little bit, kind of distract from the physical discomfort, obviously. But, people, there is something that happens, to your central nervous system when you're getting tattooed. It gets stimulated, it's enough pain that you don't necessarily want to run, but it's enough to kind of give you, what we'd call like a runner's high, kind of opens people up a little bit. It really gets them flowing, emotionally, and physically too. Sometimes people can have a really, like a pretty strong physical reaction to it as well, but it's mostly an emotional or a spiritual one. And that can be compounded by, the subject matter. It could be something that's very deep to them, whether it's a memorial or, a loved one or whatever, it could just be a place that they've been maybe that they wanted to remember. But especially guys like Chadwell or even myself, in the sense of, you're getting a lot of tattoos. Like that is a roadmap, man. Like that is, I can tell you where I was. I couldn't tell you the time of day necessarily, but I could tell you where I was when I got every single one of my tattoos. And I can tell you what my frame of mind was, at that point in time in my life. So it's for me, it's actually kind of cool, even the good and the bad, because I can look at that and I have a psychic and as well as a tangible connection to my past that way. It's no different than reading a map or Google Earth and you see the old house you lived in when you were a kid and the street you used to ride in on your bike. It's kind of the same thing. So when I see this guy and all this ink, obviously what I see when I see his torso tattoos, I mean, that looks like straight up prison work, and it's not a diss at all. That's where it looks like it comes from to me. But the stuff on his torso looks more like armor. I kind of pictured this guy, as a softie, and I had a hard time picture him in prison, like, being any kind of baller in there. So getting some of these strong images, street has kind of some kind of street cred kind of stuff. I could see that as being kind of armor, but then when I saw the ink on his arms, I kind of thought that was a little bit of a different jam. The quality is a little different. It's not, I wouldn't say it's bad, but I think it's a step above prison work. It could be, but I don't think it is. But that means he's got to be sitting down with somebody. I can't see him like, this guy's not going to want to, if he has a proclivity for young girls or even older girls, whether it's assault or rape. I don't know too many prison guys or street guys that are cool with that at all. I can't see him maybe talking to the guy in the joint too much, but I can definitely see him talking to a guy outside of the joint about it. Now, how that interaction happened or what was said, I don't know. Just like his tattoos, I don't think it's necessarily a literal translation, but I think that I think that's quite possibly a roadmap of what he might have been doing. Things veiled in allegory. He may not be telling a tattoo artist that, oh yeah, I like assaulting little kids, but he might be talking up about what a ladies' man he is. There could be a lot of clues within that conversation about place and times, scenarios, that type of thing. I don't think he'd come right out and say it because again, I don't know any tattoo artist that I've ever met that would be cool with hearing that. Like, we would have bounced a guy like that straight out the back door with a little help. So, but yeah, I thought it was kind of a fascinating thing to see that face and that clock in the same place. I wish I could get a better view of it and what's surrounding it, because I really believe that there's got to be something there. I don't think this guy could possibly not, if murder or his assault or whatever he's doing is his addiction, he's got to commemorate it somehow. And since he's so into ink, I just got to believe that's what he's doing, because I've seen it so many times with various things,
Dustin, when I look at it, and, you mentioned before, when we look at, we'll call it the possible Libby picture on his arm or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Now, tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm going off here, because I don't have the best idea of that picture in my mind right now, but I know you do. And we're looking at, this girl, and we're looking at, these different things. We'll go through a couple of these tattoos. When I'm looking at her, I'm seeing this girl, and I'm seeing her without eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then I'm thinking to myself, and it appears like there's blood or something streaming, correct?
Right.
Down her eyes, right? Okay.
Right.
So I start to say to myself, well, the little girl supposedly that he grabbed a hold of, her eyes were almost popped out of her head, and there was blood when they found her streaming down her eyes, right?
Yeah.
Now, this guy's had this tattoo for a while, long before he met this young girl, right? Do you think this could be a fantasy that this tattoo could be his. I mean, obviously he told him what to draw, right? What he wanted.
Yeah,
It had to come from his mind.
I think so.
Is this a fantasy this guy walks around with? And what do you think?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, John, because I'm looking here at my notes on the side of the screen, and I specifically wrote down, and I'll read it verbatim, are his tattoos an allegorical representation of his fantasy? I mean, it struck me that hard.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, literally.
Yeah.
And then you combine that, like we were talking with the torso tattoos, of being like a completely different story.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that makes a lot of sense to me.
And see, we know in the field that these types of killers or rapists live. And again, he's innocent proven guilty, but I mean, I'm just talking in general that these convicted serial rapists, serial killers, they live within the fantasy. I mean, the fantasy is always, it's just always there. It's all they think about, you know? And we know that they try to create different signs, whether it be, and this hit me after I met you, a tattoo on their arm, because that's a sign. Or they try to have some other type of souvenir or memento or something to kind of keep that fantasy moving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To,
you bet.
As you mentioned earlier, to stimulate. It stimulates the fantasy, right?
Yeah, and you know, he's got that, he's carrying around the image all the time, and that image is associated with that physical stimulation of actually getting it. So he's kind of got a twofer.
Yeah, he's got a twofer, because as you mentioned, you could be anywhere, you know, you may not remember this, remember that, but you remember where you were with just about every tattoo you ever got.
Every single one, you bet.
That is so much stimuli. I mean, you know, emotionally and physical at the same time, right?
It 100%, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, 100%. Now, the other thing that jumped out at me. Hi, everybody. I made a mistake. The artwork I'm talking about, where there is a tree kind of web, kind of, or seeming like a girl is caught in a web with a demon. I look at it as a demon because of it being James Chadwell. Okay, I look at that. I thought that was a tattoo. It is not. It is his artwork. So as we move through this, you will see me referring to it as one of his tattoos. It is not his tattoo, but it is his artwork. Thank you so much. Out at me. And why fantasy entered my mind. You know, is this tattoo of this girl or woman, female being caught in a web of some sort with some type of demon, right? A demon. Do you remember that tattoo? Did you see that tattoo?
No.
Okay. It'll be interesting for you to go back and take a look at that and see what you make out of it. Because it shows this girl in some kind of web or whatever his mind dreamed up, some kind of, I don't know what you call it, predicament, definitely. I mean, they're trapped by something whatever in his mind by a demon. And the girl is helpless and she's in fear. And, you know, the demon is there. So he had to fantasize that.
You bet.
I mean, he had to tell that the tattoo artist what type of tattoo he wanted, right?
Yeah.
So again, you know, is this, you know, his fantasy to entrap females and create a helpless situation for them, you know, to get off on their fear, okay, and their pain.
100%, yeah.
So that's something I'm kicking around too, but I'd love to hear your take on that, and we'll talk about that again. Um, let me see. I've got another note over here. Um, the as far as the eyes being popped out, I mean, you may not be aware of this. And again, he's innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if this guy's ever killed anyone, but the eyes have been a target of choice for various serial predators over the years. And from Dallas, Texas, we have a guy by the name of Charles Albright. He was known as the eyeball killer. And maybe we can put a link up. We'll put a link up in the description for him. Okay. And then we have another serial killer, Andrei Chikatilo, known as the Butcher of Rostov Oblast, Russia. 52 victims. These guys took the eyeballs as souvenirs. Okay. So I'm just wondering, this guy really, has me wondering quite a bit. I don't know. Now, I don't know of any cases, and I know I would know, that have taken place, serial cases that have taken place in the last 5 years where people have focused on taking the eyeballs as souvenirs. But it just bothers me that it seems the eyes were so very important to Mr. Chadwell,
Mm-hmm.
And then, that tattoo you described and you identified with the blood, girl with no eyes, like blood coming down, Is there anything else you want to talk about that specifically?
Yeah, kind of two things. Obviously eyes in the context of tattooing, it's always been a pretty heavy, a lot of symbolism there for various reasons, and it crosses all cultures and, social backgrounds and stuff. So there's a lot there. When I see that image of that girl with just the blank eyes, strangely enough, it just the eyes itself, not the blood, but the eyes itself could literally just be like a design cue, because tattooing is such a low res medium and it's a small-ish tattoo. I mean, going back back to the 80s when I started, if you were working with like darker imagery, it's stuff like that. Oftentimes, trying to create any kind of pupil or detail in the eye at that size was nearly impossible or impossible, because it wouldn't either translate or age well. But it gave it kind of a, like a spookier look, kind of zombie or kind of undead look or dead look, whatever the person was trying to achieve. So it really could just be a matter of tattoo artists could have just said, hey man, I can't fit that in there, I don't know. But given the nature of what we know that he's done so far, I think that it's something that that girl could represent somebody that is dead or that he wants to kill. Back to the blood, I still think that's, and he may not even know this, because I don't know how sophisticated the guy is. I mean, I've never met him, but going back to the teardrop thing and the prison assault, if that was what was going on with him, it would make a lot of sense to me that imagery would show up on a face, whether it's something literal, a literal victim or a surrogate victim. But we also know now, where was that 9-year-old found? In a basement. What's a basement? It's a prison. He's turned the tables. going back to his fantasy life. I mean, is this the crescendo for him? I don't know, just talking out loud, but
Yeah, man.
yeah, that's when I saw that. That's what I mean. Something gripped me, and it took me a little while to kind of file back through the internal CPU to like put it together. But that's powerful stuff.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And 40 to 50% of these guys that attack children, that sexually attack children, I mean, they've been sexually abused themselves.
Right.
Okay. And that's what we know of. Those are the guys that have talked about it.
Right.
Right. How many are out there that haven't talked about it and are not going to talk about it?
Right. Yeah.
We've got between 40% that have talked about it. The other side of it too, we know for sure, is that not everybody, that gets abused, and some people watching are probably sick of me saying this, but not everybody that gets abused will become a serial killer.
Sure.
But every serial killer has been abused. Now, again, not saying at all that James Chadwell's a serial killer. He's not, that I know of now. I can't prove that now. I can't prove, and the cops haven't come out yet and proved that he hurt Libby or Abby or was even in the area. Okay. To us, right now, he's a major person of interest. Okay. We do not know if this guy has ever killed anybody else. He's definitely innocent to proven guilty, but do I feel he was going to kill that little girl down in his basement? I do. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. For somebody at 42 years old to start that, it's hard for me. You mentioned a word earlier, which is very important. You mentioned sophisticated. See, we believe that the person that killed Libby and Abby was sophisticated. We do not believe this was their first time out. It takes a lot to move the needle up to kill somebody. I mean, you're going from 0 to 60, right? But if you're going to take on two young girls at the same time and kill them, I mean, that is extremely rare. Extremely. We've had it. We've profiled serial killers that have done that, but it is extremely, extremely rare. So, with Mr. Chadwell here, we have to also find out where he's been. This guy's been transient a decent part of his life. He's been around. He's been in different states. I think law enforcement needs to get a hold of the vehicles, different vehicles that he's had that could yield some DNA. You never know. His clothes. I mean, I'm sure they're going to go right through his house with the fine-tooth comb. The FBI are involved, but they'll probably check out his clothes. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who suggested that Tim Braun, fantastic homicide detective. I was talking to him last week, and he'll be coming on the show maybe in the near future. I've got to solidify that with him. But Timmy mentioned, listen, it's good if they, go through all the clothes and everything, because you never know where you find DNA, somebody else's DNA. And he is a great homicide detective. No question about it. In fact, he was the homicide detective, him and his partner, that arrested Charles Cullen, the Angel of Death in New Jersey, admitted to 40 murders.
Wow.
We believe it's more like 200. He was a nurse.
Wow.
He was around for a long time, and he was moving from hospital to hospital, and there were deaths, unknown deaths, throughout through the hospital systems from one part of Jersey to another part of Jersey to into Pennsylvania. So there was a lot of victims. He had a lot of victims.
Wow.
In fact, it's called The Good Nurse. It's a New York Times bestseller, and Timmy and his partner are in that, and they deserve all the credit in the world for the way they got the confession out of this guy. I mean, they nailed him. Okay. So anyway, I think pretty much the other thing is to take a look at, Chadwell's history. I'd love to see what you think, though, of that other tattoo I was telling you with the demon. And then this, maybe you want to comment on this now, this rebellious, I think he has written across his chest, rebellious. What's he telling you?
Well,
What do you
I
think?
think you look at his TikTok handle is like outlaw, whatever. I mean, this guy really fancies himself as some sort of badass, and nothing tells me that he is. I just think
Right.
that's how he sees himself. I mean, it's certainly not uncommon. I mean, there's all kinds of dudes running around with all kinds of hard shit on them, that they work at Starbucks or whatever. So, but since we know at least a dip about this guy, and again, I think that's that kind of psychic armor. He had to have had a rough time in prison. So when he got out, obviously, he's going to want to make people think, yeah, hey, man, I've done time. Check this out. I'm an outlaw. I'm hard. He's got a couple Iron Cross tattoos. And I don't think it, sometimes you see that with Sumerian stuff, but I don't think that's his case. Celtic stuff. It gets kind of blended sometimes into things that it really isn't. Or it just crosses, social lines sometimes. Some of the imagery does. So that's hard to say. But to somebody that didn't know, you might look at that and just kind of go like, wow, he's got a down on his belly. I could see he's got like a Japanese demon or a ghost as well. He's real into that kind of, obviously the darker side of what's going on in his imagination, and that's okay. A lot of people do, and they never hurt anybody, but we do know this guy's hurt somebody in the worst possible person, in the worst possible way. So that's, you just can't believe this stuff doesn't mean anything, not to a guy like this, especially if he has got that predilection for assault or rape or even murder. He's got to have that active fantasy, just like in a loop playing in his head. We see this a lot of times with guys. Before I made a note here about a psychic awakening, and when you see young guys, a lot of young guys, when they're coming up on the streets, this is, don't mean anything bad about it. They're just, that's the life that they're leading at the time. They got a lot of older guys that are kind of folding them in, a little bit at a time. They start them out with, maybe running and grabbing beers, and then, maybe grabbing dope, boosting a car. They're getting, they're getting their imagery, they're getting their tats, they're getting their cred established, which is, I think, what Chadwell's doing too. He's trying to establish. He hasn't. I don't know about Chadwell's. We talked, but a lot of these young guys, they got a lot of tattoos. By the time they start committing murder, whether it's in a gang or a serial thing or whatever it is, they're not so psychically harmed by it because they have kind of preloaded it. They've had that imagery. They've had people react to the imagery. They've developed the rep. Now they're in the mindset of somebody who can put the work in. It's not just some guy on the street that just all of a sudden one day went out and you threw a gauge in his hand and drove by the shopping mall. That's because you see that with veterans, guys working on the farm. And I'll have a lot of awesome clients that have been veterans, either ride with them and good friends with them in barbecues. They're all just, and of course, we're all thankful for everything they've done for us. I mean, it's the best people in the world. But man, you go from one day you're helping your old man or something, out on the farm, to blowing people away. Like you see what that does to them, and it's just horrible, because they really believe that they're doing something to help, but they get thrown into this situation. You don't see that as much with the street guys, because it's again, it's kind of folded in, it's layered in, they've badged, they've kind of grown into it. And I think that's a lot of what Chadwell's been trying to do, because as we talk via email, I don't think anybody that's legit is going to have the time of day for this dude, probably at all, because no matter how much he tries to mask it, I mean, when you're working as a tattooist, I mean, back to the barber, like, hell, you want to know where your permit is on your fence in your yard? We probably know. you know
You've heard it all. You've heard it all, right?
Literally, yeah. But I just can't, I can see him trying to break in to a club, a clique, and if he's got sexual fantasies, anything that revolves around, sex workers, or maybe kink or BDSM, and those, most of those guys, and especially those groups, most of those are just like regular people. Yeah, they've got like a little kink going on, but everything's about respect and consent and in safety. A guy like that would never fit in. But I could see him thinking in his mind that it's just an easy place to pick something up and getting turned away pretty damn fast because of it. Because I've known a lot of those people over my years, and they're all good folks, and they would never put up with that, but he's a wisher. He wants to be something. He wants to be something for sure. He's just, he's literally got it written all over him. And you combine that with his just rambling, whatever he's got going on there on his TikTok social media thing, is just like, whoa, dude. Yeah, you got some serious issues here.
Yeah, what we have from what you're saying is we've got a wannabe playing a role, right?
100%, yeah.
100% wannabe playing the role, who, turns around and assaults a 9 or a 10-year-old little girl. Now, this is what we know of. Okay. Right. This is what we know. I'm sure there's more we don't know. This guy's 42 years old. Okay.
Right.
So we got this guy playing a role, and he wants to be a tough guy. So, this 2-bit punk turns around and, drops down on this 9-10-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I guess, he's going to find out, how tough he is, because I'll tell you, Dustin, as we talk here, he's at the hospital either right now or he's just recently released, getting medical attention. And for all you fans out there and all you folks out there, you got to understand, these guys really don't do well in general population in jail. Right. And, I think he's already on his way to find out exactly how tough he really is. Because he's definitely going to be tested. And if he's found guilty on all these charges, he's coming out of there in a bag.
You bet he is.
He's coming out.
If he even makes it that far. I mean, I think we both know how, you mess with kids and you go to jail. I mean, hell, he could be in county and get taken out. That's just the code.
Yeah, that's where he was, county. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dustin Ranck, master tattoo artist. You were a fantastic guest today. I can't thank you enough for your feedback. And
thanks for having me, John. It's a real honor. I appreciate it.
Professional intuition, and certainly, we'll have you back again as long as your time permits.
Anytime.
And to all the folks out there, we can't thank you enough for all the comments, for all the information. We can't thank you enough for all our success. We can't thank you enough for all your care and concern about Libby and Abby and this poor young girl that was assaulted by Chadwell. One thing I have to mention is that we will no longer be able to answer every single comment personally. We will look them over. We will answer some comments, but we are victims of your success and our success because, you've pushed us up the ladder as far as subscribers go, especially you've pushed us up the ladder as far as comments go. But we will read all your information. We will read your comments, what we can get back to, what we feel is important for us to get back to. We will certainly get back to you on. There's many of you that have tipped us. We've taken those tips. We've sent them over to law enforcement. I truly believe, with all your help, that the killer of Abby and Libby is in the mix. We just got to figure out which one he is. Okay. And, most importantly, please feel free. If you have something that you feel is important, you can always email us. With that all being said, I guess from us to you, make sure you make it a safe day and have a great day. You can have a great day just staying safe out there. I think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with this COVID, hopefully. And again, we can't thank you enough. So until we talk again, God bless. Again, just thank you so much. Dustin Ranck, ladies and gentlemen. That's him. And we'll have his email up there if any of you want to get in touch with him so you can email him. Is that all right?
That's great, John. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I got your book, got a notification sitting here that it showed up at my place today. So you know what I'm doing this weekend. I'm all over it, brother.
Hope you like it. Enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.